Hello tutors who have logged onto this video, perhaps because you've been affected by what's happened with the closure of First Tutors. If you're a student and you're normally subscribed to this channel and you think this might be a video for you, it's not. Just go back to your revision. This is just going to be for tutors. So I sort of wanted to make this video because I hadn't seen much sort of kind of validated information out there. There's quite a lot of posts on Reddit and some sort of WhatsApp groups going on where there's been some discussion about what's happened, but I think nothing really concrete. So I wanted to do a bit of a deep dive into kind of what I think happened. And I also want to kind of document what I've kind of experienced through that and what I've learned kind of coming out of it in terms of what are the alternatives out there. Because for me, I kind of made a little bit of an error in that I'd relied solely on First Tutors for the last 10 years. So I'm not obviously having to massively readjust now, which is proving to actually be quite difficult. But I'm going to go through all of the alternatives that I found, what I'm personally going to do, and hopefully that will give some help, because I know a lot of people like me are kind of panicking a little bit because for a lot of us, it was a way of making good money over the years. So obviously what led to this moment is that about 2.5-3 weeks ago, the website went down for maintenance. Then on Friday, we got this message here, which was, after more than 20 years of trading, First Tutors has made the difficult decision to close. We'd like to thank all of our customers and tutors who have used the platform to facilitate private tuition services for their support over the years. So then a couple of things to note here about these email addresses that they've left. So that bottom email address, dpo@firsttutors.co.uk, is really important because, and I will put the message from one of the group chats into the description about how you can request to get your personal information. As I understand it, the personal information we can access includes reviews, which I know for a lot of people are really important because, of course, that is how we sort of validated our service through these reviews. There are also ways of trying to get reviews using the Wayback Machine. Again, I'll put that information into the description. For me personally, I was only able to go as far back as November 2024 on my profile, which is when it was captured by the Wayback Machine, which meant I only had 77 5-star reviews. And I think I ended, when the website went down, I had 110 or so. So I've lost quite a lot of reviews there. But at least you can get them for a lot of people. If you signed up probably from 2024 to now, there's a chance you might not have been captured, your profile. But anyway, I'll put a bit more information about that in the description. So that email address at the bottom, there's a template as well of how you can email them and basically request your data using your URL or using your profile name. That email address in the middle info@firsttutors.co.uk. If you email it, it sends you an email response saying we're inundated with emails. It might be some time before we get back to you. There is a possibility, guys, that we literally never hear back from them ever again. Obviously, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with these email addresses? Who knows if we get any of our data back? I think legally they are required to give us the data, and from what I understand, they have 1 month from closing trading. So definitely do it as soon as you can, I think, and at least get your information to them and that you've requested it. So last year around November, I kind of had a bit of a realization that actually 70-80% of my annual income came from First Tutors, and I just got a little bit panicked, and I was like, oh my god, what happens if it goes wrong? So I actually did some financial digging into the company last year and was kind of very, very concerned over what I saw, but then weirdly kind of just thought, well, they've been going for 20 odd years and it seems like they've been working fine. So I'm sure it'll be fine. And obviously I massively regret that. But I actually, over the last few days, have been condensing what I had learned back then about the company, and I thought I would just put it into this sort of presentation. It is done by AI, so obviously if there's everything should be correct in there, but just like a little bit of a kind of disclaimer there. So and also because this is rushed, so they've put together some of the stuff they said, like at the top, corporate negligence. I don't know if that is the case. I mean, all I've got is the numbers that I've taken from Company's House. So from what I could learn, what I could gather, in 2007, you've got it being launched. And this is kind of. This took me quite a bit of time to work out the name First Tutors, but Edunation. From what I can gather, Edunation is actually what it was always called. It's just the website was called First Tutors. So anyway, it started by these guys, Anita and Paul. FYI, if either of you are watching this, please feel free to get in touch. So they've launched it in 2007, and it seems like their business model was pretty straightforward, which is tutors could pay to be premium and students would pay to release the details. I'll go into a little bit more into that later and why I think that is such a good business model, because it really helps us, the tutors, out. And some sites that are taking over from First Tutors' business model, which I'll come to. So anyway, yeah, it starts in 2007. And then I took a snapshot of the company in 2016 and their financials. And their financials were really, really strong in 2016. And sorry, I'm getting loads of school emails here. 2016 is an important moment because it's sold in 2017 to this American company, Varsity Tutors. I think they're called Varsity. I know they're called Varsity. I think it's Varsity Tutors. So I wanted to look at 2016 because I'm like, well, it's being sold in 2016, so it must be doing pretty well. And the numbers stack up. Its assets were £415,000. Cash in the bank was 541,000, which is like great. I mean, awesome. It seems in 2016, the company is doing really well 10 years ago. And that's actually, funnily enough, when I joined when I signed up as a tutor there. So it's then bought, we can see it at the bottom here, it's bought in 2017. It is Varsity Tutors. And it acquires First Tutors, or Edunation, I guess. So this is this US company, Varsity Tutors. It's bought Edunation. We don't know what it was bought for. I did try and find that out. I couldn't get any information on that. They didn't make it public. And then at that point, and you can see in Company's House, the directors, the founders, the English guys, Anita and that, let me just mute that, step down as directors, and then you have American directors come in, and you can see that on Company's House because it says the nationality of the people who join as join the board of directors in 2017. They're American, so that all kind of checks out. So Varsity, it seems, are trying to raise quite a lot of money. It's their first acquisition. International acquisition, from what I could find, which was First Tutors. Then what happens? Let's have a look. So yeah, then it gets really weird, guys. So I don't know if anyone else has done any digging into this, but it gets weird because you then have this company called NRDY Inc., which is just like, obviously incorporated is such an American kind of word, in 2021. And it goes public. So it's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And it goes public at 1.7 billion. So you've got this huge company that has ended up with Edunation and First Tutors. The profile that the company that we all used and relied on is suddenly sucked up into this sort of vortex of American money. So Varsity Tutors' parent company is called NRDY. So in terms of like the hierarchy, you've got NRDY at the top. NRDY owns Varsity Tutors. Varsity Tutors buys in 2017 Edunation, which is the sort of owner of First Tutors. That's sort of the hierarchy. There's a merger, and it gets really complicated, but there is a merger with a SPAC, which is a special purpose acquisition. I thought it was vehicle, but company, something like that, I guess. And they then put it onto the stock exchange so people can effectively buy shares. And the valuation is massive at that. So basically the starting price of their stock price is kind of determines the valuation based on how many shares they put out to be purchased or sold. They raise 750 million in this sort of process, and they promised profitability by 2023. I think this was in the like sort of company sort of record filings. And that then means that First Tutors, as I said, is kind of now in this huge sort of collection of tutoring companies, which means it's kind of lost its control at that point, which I guess is why the original directors stepped down. Now, okay, this is where it all starts to go wrong, because this company, NRDY Inc., from their financial filings, is literally losing so much money. It's insane. So they've missed every single target they've made of profitability. We're 2 years in now, it's 2023, and their stock price collapses. I'll put that up on the screen in a moment. Like, absolutely, it's gone from... I think it's lost like 80-90% of its value, their stock price. So they're really, really, not good financially. So they've missed the target. Edunation headcount, so the people that are running First Tutors, gets cut 18%. So it goes from like 15 employees, and I think it ended with 5. There's then loans that are happening, which is kind of weird. So they're then making loans to keep First Tutors going, which I don't understand, because First Tutors was absolutely fine before it got bought by an American company. From what we can see, it was profitable. It didn't really have any debt. It was a really good company. Why are they suddenly getting loans from an American company to keep going? They were literally fine. So I couldn't quite understand that. So then First Tutors ends up owing money to NRDY Inc. We think it's 804,000 pounds, which is just so much money for a company that was seemingly fine a few years ago. Their business model didn't change. First Tutors' business model, as far as I'm aware, for those whole 10 years I was on it, since 2017, was absolutely fine. Obviously, subscription model for tutors, if they want to pay the £80 or whatever it was to be a premium member, they could. And then for them to release details to students, it's anywhere between £10 to £25 to release those details. That seems like it works. I mean, anyone who was on the website for a long time would know they hardly ever updated it. Like, it always looked a bit dated. Sometimes it's a bit like, oh, they could really polish this up a bit. Like their homepage with like the Times articles that they had written about them at the bottom, like, just never was updated. And I was always just like, guys, come on, you could do something with this. But it seems like obviously they never really cared, and probably because they were making decent money from what we can see from the financial filings. 2024, it starts to get pretty bad for NRDY. Remember, the American sort of like overarching owner of everything. 64% staff are cut. They pretty much have no money at this point in 2024, from what I can see. From the last accounts I could find, that's when we go from 14 employees to 5. And now there's over £1 million that First Tutors owe to the parent company, NRDY Inc. and Varsity Tutors. Which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Remember, this was a company, we saw it in 2017 or 2016 before it was sold, which had $500,000 in assets, in cash, in the bank. And now suddenly, a few years later, they owe all of this money. I can't quite work that out, me personally. The stock at this point goes down, the stock prices goes down to 83 cents, which is down 92%. 92%. The value has gone down of NRDY Inc. Where are we? So First Tutors closes. This is where we kind of finish off here. There's no warning given, which I, again, kind of really can't understand here, because they could have given us plenty of warning, they could have emailed all of the people on their email list. We all had our, email addresses registered with the site. They could have messaged us, they didn't. So again, if anyone's watching this actually who is involved in First Tutors, like, please get in touch and let us know what actually happened here, because none of it seems to make sense to me still, even after I've kind of learned a little bit. So yeah, after 20 years, hundreds of thousands of tutor and students connections, it's just shut down overnight. There is no email, there's no notice, and we all lose all of those reviews, which is what is hurting people the most, I think, which kind of really sucks. So at the bottom, we kind of just have this sort of recap. Then in 2016, we've got all of this money. They reach their peak valuation at 1.7 billion when they're listed on the stock exchange in 2021. Within a few years, the stock price has crashed 92%. And then there's zero warning to tutors. And this is their stock price as it is now. This was this morning. I checked this. So you can see from the red how far it has crashed. Their stock price, was at one point over $13 per share. It's now under $1. I mean, that pretty much tells you everything you need to know, right? It's not good. And yet, 7th of May, Reuters are reporting that they're kind of turning it around. That their revenue has risen 2.4%. They're making 50 odd million a year, these guys, NRDY Inc. And yet, First Tutors apparently was costing them too much money, even though, as we know, it was profitable. Cool. All right. So when all of this happened, as I kind of mentioned previously, I had been on the website for 10 years and I had over 100 5-star reviews. And foolishly on my part, that was the only site I've ever been on as a tutor. So that then, of course, forced me, maybe a lot of people have had this as well, to go out and look at the alternatives. And I've been absolutely devastated by what the alternatives are. Because from what I can see, that business model that First Tutors had doesn't exist anymore. As it currently stands, I'll come back to that in a minute and talk about some, I think, the best alternatives that we've currently got. They are now like, basically, we take percentage of what you earn. You have to be on our platform. Basically, your lessons happen over our platform. We take a commission and you have to have third-party payments, which is basically PayPal, which I don't want. So already I was like, okay, there actually are no working, fully operational alternatives that I would be comfortable with using. So what are they? So I looked at Superprof, Tutorful, My Tutor. My Tutor was like straight up quite a bit of commission. I can't remember exactly. Was it 36% or something? I can't remember. Tutorful, 35% added to the student rate. That was the same with Sherpa as well, I think it was. And then Superprof was unbelievable. They forced me on my profile. They wouldn't let me offer my first lesson for free. I've never offered a first lesson for free in 10 years. And I don't think it's reasonable to do that, because obviously then students could just go from get a free lesson every single time. So that kind of doesn't work for me. But that was basically, it was forced upon me. And it was only PayPal, which I kind of don't love either. I think we should have the ability to just give our bank details basically to the parent or whatever. So it felt like these weren't particularly good options when you consider what we maybe as First tutors have come from, which is effectively no real barrier to receiving money. So these three looked kind of better. Spires, which had this offer of like 5%, they only take 5% if you bring your own students. Again, like, what's in it for us? I really don't understand these business models. Tutor Hunt, 33% added to your student rate. So basically I charge £50 an hour, but that's not what the student will pay, because I'll get paid my £50, but that's not what the student's going to pay. It'd be 33% on top of that, which is obviously going to put a lot of people off purchasing my time. And then also that means I probably lower my rate to cover that. It doesn't seem like a good deal. It seems like tutors are getting absolutely screwed here, really, with all of these new business models that have come up. Again, maybe that's why it closed. First Tutors, I don't know. Anyway, that was that. So Big shout out to these two guys. Tutor Perch, I first found out about on Reddit because they've been quite active in, I think, trying to get people to have a look at their website. From what I can remember, this was set up by a lady and her partner who is I think a web designer or software engineer. They're working together to basically be a successor platform to First Tutors, in that the business model pretty much remains the same. They're charging £9 release fee that the students pay to get the tutor's details. I had to pay, I think it was £3 to have my DBS checked with them. So yeah, there's a little bit of an upfront cost there, but then at least, I've got those credentials on the website. I think they are discussing how they would import reviews from First Tutors into Tutor Perch. Also, you've got Tutor Decks, of which I'm in the WhatsApp group. Massive shout out to Henry, who is working insanely hard answering everyone's questions. Last time I looked, I think last night there was 150 tutors in this WhatsApp group. I'll put the link into the description for that as well, to join that group, because I think Henry's letting any tutor that wants to be in that group, they can. Again, it's the same. It's taking the First Tutors model, which is the one that actually, I think, respects tutors and doesn't just steal all their money, basically. But here's the thing, guys, they're both very early stage. They are operational. You can put a profile on there. I think it's going to take time to get these sites up and running. Me personally, I want to support these guys as much as possible because they are set up by tutors, and it feels like all of those other alternative websites that have already been running are corporate people who are literally just like, how do we monetize a tutor giving time to a student? And how do we take as much money? How do we extract as much money as possible from that? I don't want to be involved with those people. It's kind of why I liked First Tutors so much, because it always felt like I wasn't having to throw away so much of my money just to have a profile on there. So yeah, Tutor Perch, Tutor Decks, these are the guys. Check them out if you are a tutor and you haven't heard of these guys yet. As I said, I mean, they've only come up over the last week or so. So check these guys out, because I genuinely believe these guys could be the future for so many of us. And then on top of that, guys, what I've started to do over the last few days is actually feel comfortable being on my own without outside of the sort of listing a profile, in that I have my own website now, which I didn't have before, where I just list who I am and what I do. I have a Google business profile, which I'm going to be collecting reviews from. So I basically have got as many reviews as I could from First Tutors, and I've then taken that review, sent an email to the parent and said, would you be comfortable using the review that you wrote previously on First Tutors and putting it onto my Google business profile instead? So basically importing my own reviews from First Tutors onto my Google profile, because that'll always be there, we think. So that's what I would recommend doing, trying to take some ownership. If you don't already have a website, I recommend having a website. I recommend trying to get as many of your reviews as possible. Current students as well, really make sure you're getting reviews. Put them on your website, make a Google business profile if you haven't already. Really recommend that. And that is it. That is my final slide. So kind of to summarize then, I mean, ultimately it doesn't matter what happened to First Tutors. First Tutors is gone. It's really devastating for a lot of us. The alternatives currently aren't great, but of course, you determine your own prices on these sites, and I'm sure you can get work. It's just that it seems that these kind of corporate sites are literally just going to try and get as much money from us, the tutors, as possible. So take ownership. Set up on your own, and also look into Tutor Decks and Tutor Perch as well, because these are the successors to First Tutors, and for us as a neutral, not involved necessarily in either of those companies, for me that's great, and I think for all of us as well. and that potentially could be great and could be the way to go. So I'm going to wrap up the video there. I hope some of that maybe helped. I guess if you've got any questions, put them down in the chat, and then everyone can kind of help each other as well, kind of similar to the WhatsApp group, which I'll link in the description if it allows me. And yeah, good luck to all of you. I hope the more time that passes since the shock of the First Tutors closure last week, I hope things get a little bit clearer. At least they kind of are for me. I'm feeling a little bit, still really worried, but I'm feeling a little bit more confident every day. So yeah, anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching the video, and yeah, good luck.